Slide 1. Title Slide. The Hidden Wealth of the Mekong Delta. Good morning, esteemed guests, colleagues, and friends. It is both an honor and a delight to welcome you to today's deep dive into one of the world's most fascinating and, in many ways, most vulnerable regions, the Mekong Delta of Vietnam. This delta is far more than a rice bowl or a tourism backdrop. It is a living, breathing system, a cradle of culture, biodiversity, and adaptation. Slide 2. The role of the Mekong Delta in Vietnam. The Mekong Delta occupies 12% of Vietnam's total area, yet it produces over 50% of the country's rice, 65% of aquaculture output, 70% of fruit production, and 95% of rice exports. It is not an exaggeration to say that the Mekong Delta is the beating heart of Vietnam's food security, economy, and ecological stability. However, its contribution is not merely economic. It is a unique model of human-waterland interaction, which has developed over centuries of adapting to floods, tides, and seasonal cycles. Slide 3. Diverse and dynamic ecosystems. Spanning over 4 million hectares, the delta consists of floodplains, estuaries, mangroves, wetlands, peat swamps, and riverine forests. These ecosystems are interconnected, creating a dynamic matrix that supports 20,000 plus species of plants and animals, hundreds of fish species, many endemic, rare birds like the Sarus crane, and some of the last intact peatland and mangrove systems in Southeast Asia. The complexity and richness of this biodiversity rivals that of the Amazon basin in many ways, particularly in aquatic life. Slide 4. Water, the lifeblood. Water is both a gift and a challenge. Every year, the Delta receives 475 billion cubic meters of fresh water from the Mekong River. However, seasonal flooding and dry seasons drastically alter water availability. Saline intrusion increasingly reaches over 100 kilometers inland, damaging crops and threatening livelihoods. Upstream hydropower dams have reduced sediment transport by 70%, weakening the delta's natural ability to build and regenerate its landmass. This region is a hydrological masterpiece, but also an increasingly fragile system under multiple stressors. Slide 5. Land, fertile, but sinking. The delta's soil fertility has historically made it a global leader in rice production. However, we now face a land subsidence of 1 to 4 centimeters per year, largely due to overextraction of groundwater, a loss of sediment deposits due to upstream dams, encroachment of saltwater and acid sulfate soils, an increasing fragmentation of natural land cover. Unless reversed or mitigated, these changes risk converting fertile farmland into saline marshes and abandoned fields within decades. Slide 6. Biodiversity, a natural treasury. The Mekong Delta harbors over 850 fish species, 143 mammal species, 78 reptile and amphibian species, and thousands of invertebrates and plant species. These contribute not only to food security and medicine, but also to genetic diversity, climate resilience, and ecotourism potential. However, many of these species are threatened by pollution, habitat loss, and climate change. Preserving this biodiversity is a moral, scientific, and ecological imperative. Slide 7. Cultural resources, floating traditions. Culture in the Delta is deeply intertwined with water. Floating markets like Kai Rang and Na Bay. Traditional music such as Don Cie Tai Tu, a UNESCO-recognized art form. Communal festivals and pagoda worship. A river-based livelihoods and floating homes. It is a region where culture is not only inherited, but adapted continuously to survive amidst water, change, and uncertainty. Slide 8. Tourism, untapped potential. The Delta welcomes over 25 million visitors per year, yet international awareness remains low. Opportunities exist for ecotourism, cultural immersion, community-based tourism, agrotourism, and climate education programs. But this must be balanced with conservation goals, as mass tourism without planning could degrade what makes the region so special. Slide 9. Challenges, climate change, and human pressure. The Delta is facing a perfect storm. Climate change and sea level rise. Upstream water manipulation. Overuse of groundwater. Pollution. Population pressure. Urbanization of rural landscapes. By 2100, 39% of the Delta could be permanently submerged. Some projections even place it at the front line of climate-induced migration. This is not just a Vietnamese issue. It's a global sustainability challenge. Slide 10. Solutions and resilience. But there is hope and action. Vietnam is implementing the Mekong Delta Plan (MDP), supported by the Netherlands. Integrated water management. Diversification of crops and livelihoods. Sediment restoration and mangrove replanting. Modern irrigation and adaptive aquaculture systems. Floating solar farms and nature-based solutions. This region is becoming a living laboratory for climate adaptation, a model that can inspire the world. Slide 11. A call to action. Why it matters globally. The Mekong Delta is more than a case study. It is a food basket for millions, a biological ark, a culture forged in water, a frontline in the fight against climate collapse. To our guests, you are creators, thinkers, innovators, and communicators. Your voices can raise global awareness, support sustainable development, foster collaboration between nations, disciplines, and cultures. The Mekong Delta needs allies. And today, perhaps, it has just found 50 more. Slide 12. Closing. Let us not think of the Delta as a victim of modernity, but as a resilient ecosystem and a heroic community, offering profound lessons in humility, sustainability, and harmony with nature. Thank you for joining this journey today. May your hearts stay open, your cameras stay dry, and your appreciation for this remarkable region only deepen.